have a name and a value, but the value might be other lists of names and values, which in turn might have other lists of names and values. For example, the address example we had before that was just a name-value pair, here it's a collection of name-value pairs. Address is a collection of other names and values. Address is still the name, but the value is a collection. Street is and main is a name-value pair. Number and 100 is a name-value pair. Apartment is a name, and its value is another list or collection of name-value pairs. Floor is the name, 3 is the value, number is the name, 301 is the value. That's an object in JavaScript. When we're talking about objects in JavaScript, we're talking about collections of name-value pairs, and that value might itself be another object. So apartment has a collection of name-value pairs, and that's an object. So address, its value is an object. Apartment, its value is an object. You see how they nest down? Don't think any more deeply about objects in JavaScript than this. We're going to see some interesting things you can do with objects, but at its core, this is what an object is in JavaScript. It's just that simple. I know what you're thinking. Are we going to actually write any JavaScript code anytime soon? Yes, right now and for the rest of the course. This lecture is the global environment and the global object. Whenever code is run in JavaScript, it's run inside an execution context. We've seen that word already, meaning a wrapper that the JavaScript engine, the program that other people wrote that's parsing and looking at and verifying and executing your code, that wraps that up, that code that you've written. It wraps the currently executing code in an execution context. So when we look at our very first JavaScript program, we're going to be looking at an execution context being created and run. And the base execution context, we'll look at a few, because there's more than one that runs during a JavaScript program normally. The base execution context is your global execution context. And it has a couple of special things that come along for the ride. The base execution context, the global execution context, and when we say global, we're talking about the thing that's accessible everywhere to everything in your code. It's global. All right, so the global execution context creates two things for you. You don't have to in your code. It creates a global object. Number in objects is just a collection of name-value pairs. It creates this global object, and it creates a special variable for you called this. The JavaScript engine is creating these two things for you whenever your code is run, because your code is wrapped inside an execution context. And these two things are created for you by the JavaScript engine. All right, let's take a look. All right, it's that time. We're going to look at our very first JavaScript program. Now, we're going to run our JavaScript in the browser. This is very convenient, again, because we have our dev tools and we can see what's going on under the hood a little bit easier. But we're going to do that simply by having a simple HTML page referencing a single script I'm calling app.js, which will always contain the code that we're working with. I have this sitting in a folder, and I'm opening that folder in brackets. And then I'm going to hit this button in the upper right in order to launch Google Chrome and run this web page, which will then cause the browser to run this JavaScript. That's how we'll do all of our examples. All right, so are you ready? Here's our very first JavaScript program. Let's open app.js. There it is. What do you think? I know what you're thinking. Hey, that's empty. There's nothing in that file. All right. Well, you're right. I wrote no code.